Breaking down the Michigan Wolverines here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, courtesy Justin Rowe. You can catch him on his Stadium in Maine podcast. Justin, how's it going today?
Pretty good, pretty good. We actually, in Ann Arbor here, got about 16 inches of snow last night. So I know the entire country, we're used to it up here in Michigan, whereas I know the Texas and the South is not so used to it. So they're going through some stuff. But hey, even up here in Michigan, 16 inches is a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. We had something like that a couple weekends ago, but I'm going to steal bragging rights even over Texas today. It's 45 degrees, pretty calm, nothing going on in regards to precipitation. So you'll typically take this mid-February, no doubt.
For sure. Yeah, here it's we got a lot of snow, and I think it's like 12 or 13 degrees. So, as we're the sun is out, though, I'll take that. Sometimes in Michigan, you don't see the sun for a week or two at a time. So we'll take the sun, but it's hard to even be thinking about spring football, as you asked me about before we hopped on, with this much snow on the ground right now.
I know. We have no idea how much we have to push through either. March is such a wild card. It could be 60, it could be 25 for most of March. So, again, it's such a wild card of a factor that we don't know how much more winter we need to endure, but it's coming, meaning spring at some point.
Mm-hmm.
All right, also coming, possibly. We thought at one point defensive tackle Alex VanSumer, and so he was a top target and commit. He's decommitted. We're talking about top 15 defensive tackle, top 4 player out of the state of Michigan. So that had a lot to do with his brother's decision as well.
Yeah, definitely had a lot to do with his brother's decision. I was really interested to see that happen. I think some people expected his brother to do that, but they didn't expect Alex to decommit. It sounded like he also immediately got an offer from Arizona, where Don Brown is, former defensive coordinator for Michigan. So maybe he's following Don Brown. I know that VanSumer did like Don Brown, and they were pretty close as well. But I think that that is a big hit for Michigan. Especially, it was interesting to see that after what Shaun Nua has done on the recruiting trail in the past 3 weeks since he was retained, and since Mike Macdonald was made the defensive coordinator for Michigan. Shaun Nua has offered and gotten a lot of traction, crystal balls, and everything else from a lot of different defensive tackles. So you kind of thought that was trending in the right way for Michigan. But now this one, it looks like he's not, it's not trending in the right way for Alex VanSumer, and especially right after it came out that he was over 300 pounds actually in his last weigh-in. So he would have been a huge jolt for Michigan. I think I've seen him play as well. For a 300-pounder, he plays running back for his high school teams at some points of their games in this past season. So that would have been a big one. I think it'll be a bit of a big loss for Michigan as well. But I think that now with a new defensive staff, they will still be they'll be okay going forward. I think Shaun Nua is making a big splash on the defensive line. They've got Aiden Hutchinson back on the defensive ends as well. But that was a concern. The defensive tackle position was a huge concern for Michigan that last year and moving forward in the future because they didn't have many recruits. So losing him, not great, but it seems like it may have been a not great fit with Don Brown leaving and Mike Macdonald coming in.
Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, breaking down the game we all love each and every day. Best discussion, debate, and analysis. That's at least our aim, goal, and mission. Justin Rowe's on the line from Stadium in Maine podcast, so check it out and follow Justin on Twitter at JustinRowe92. So we got linebacker Adam Shibley, who was pressed into action, played 5 games, 3 starts there, transfer portal guy now. Even though it appeared as though with Cam McGrone gone, that he might have more of an opportunity in Ann Arbor.
Yeah, I think what we're seeing now is a new coaching staff come in. Mike Macdonald and Brian Jean Mary are both going to co-coordinate the linebacker position. So they're probably making a splash right now to say, okay, well, they're probably coming in with a different type of defense. We've heard that they are going to come in with a 3-4. instead of Don Brown's 4-3. So that will be something different that these linebackers are seeing. So maybe they don't see a spot for Adam Shibley. I also think he was thrown in there as a former walk-on who earned a scholarship. Lance Dixon is a former Penn State linebacker who Michigan has their eyes on. He's a former West Bloomfield kid, where new coach on the offensive side of the ball for come in from West Bloomfield as well. So I think that those connections are all factors into Shibley's decision here. No offense to Adam Shibley, I'm not sure he was going to make a big splash in 2021 on the linebacking core, especially if Lance Dixon is going to come in. There were crystal balls immediately after Lance Dixon entered the transfer portal to Michigan. He is waiting to make his decision for a while still. But I think that Adam Shibley probably saw the writing on the wall.
We also hear that West Virginia quarterback Drayshawn Miller, who had 31 tackles last year and a pick, has ties to cornerback coach Maurice Lindsay, and so there's some rumblings there.
Yeah, Maurice Lindsay is making a hell of a splash already in his first couple weeks in terms of recruiting. He came in, landed 2 4-star corners commits for the 2022 class. And now if he can land a transfer portal kid in Drayshawn Miller as well, it's going to be pretty incredible. So I think that's what we've seen from the defensive side of the ball with his staff is recruits, which it seems like Jim Harbaugh at Michigan, that's what they wanted to come in. They wanted a younger staff that could really vibe with these recruits and get them going. Get a different culture into Michigan instead of Don Brown, who is, let's be honest, he's a little bit of a stubborn old 65-year-old man. And so they're going very much younger on the coaching staff, and it seems to be working for Michigan in terms of the recruiting trail. Not only are they landing commits already, but there's a chance that Will Jackson will come as well in the 2021 class. Will Johnson. Damani Jackson, who committed to USC, the 5-star corner out of Detroit as well. There's been rumblings that now with a new staff for Michigan and Will Johnson trying to get him to come back. So we'll see how that goes. With a guy that's already committed and signed, it's tough to say. But who knows what goes on there. So I think that, it's one of these things that I've been wondering, Mark, is what is his goal with this new coaching staff? Young culture guys, between Mike Hart, that's been there for, he's obviously an alum. They've got guys on the defensive side of the ball as well that are coming back that have been around the program before. What's his goal? It seems to be that he's trying to get better recruiting. He's trying to get a better culture, more lively, a little bit just different juju coming in Ann Arbor. And it seems like it's working because whatever they're throwing at these kids in terms of a recruiting pitch, it's working already. And so it'll be interesting, though, to see how does that translate onto the field. You've got a lot of young coaches that are coming in now that have not seen much coordinator experience in terms of calling plays on both sides of the ball. And so it'll be really interesting to see how that plays out in 2021 when it comes to actually winning football games, which has been Michigan's biggest issue.
Yeah, it's a head-scratcher. Jim Harbaugh arrived on campus. He took the players that were already there that won 5 games the year before. He had 2 outstanding seasons to start. He implemented his recruiting approach, which upgraded the recruiting. I don't want to say considerably because Brady Hoke recruited well, but he did upgrade it to a certain extent and put it right on that top 10 line, right in that range. But then the performance on the field dwindled here in the last couple of seasons, especially, of course, in 2020. So the recruiting's not broken. And even in this, and we talked about it with all the negative news and all the negative slant and angles that we've had to drudge through over the last several months. And I apologize for this, Justin. Ever since we got you on here, that's all we talked about is negative stuff concerning Michigan football. But the one positive is that with all that going on, and with Jim Harbaugh seemingly 1 foot out the door, at least that's what I'm sure the opponents in the Big Ten wanted to tell recruits, that they still salvaged the number 9 class in the nation. So they got something going for them with Harbaugh leading both an older coaching staff and now this newer one.
Yeah, it is really pretty impressive to see what he was able to put together there. I mean, you would have thought that they would take a dip at. I mean, how many weeks in a row did we come on and say, "All right, what's new with Jim Harbaugh?" We don't know. Nobody knew what was going on, and I assume that many of those recruits were feeling the same. You know, I'm sure they were having some behind the scenes conversations, but it still wasn't very clear to them. So it was pretty incredible. So if Michigan can build on that with these new coaches that are coming in that seem to be a little better on the recruiting trail, then it'll be interesting to see. Can they get up in from a top 9 recruiting class to a top 5 recruiting class? What and the more important question: what difference does that make? You and I, Mark, were talking right before we came on here. Is that what's really going to push Michigan over the edge, or do they need to do something different with player development, on-field coaching, things like that? I think that that's where the bigger issues have been. So it'll be interesting to see how those coaches pan out. But I still think, to your point before we came on, having 5 stars is not a bad thing. Having really high 4 stars is not a bad thing. And that's what they're adding right now. So if you add the talent, it's a lot easier to make the in-game coaching go well when you have the talent on the field to start with, right?
I haven't built the spreadsheet to completely break this down, but I gotta say, Justin, that if you compare to Ohio State and Michigan's talent, I don't think there's a substantial gap, a huge gap, but I think there's a decided gap. It's measurable, but I also think that there's a gap. Again, if we went Urban Meyer / Jim Harbaugh, something in that range of the last 7, 8 years, 9 years, that you would see more Chase Young, Jeffrey Okudah, top elite end of the top end of the NFL draft player for Ohio State than for Michigan.
Yeah, you know what's been interesting that between Ohio State and Michigan, especially when you look at the quarterback position specifically, and just a lot of those players, is Michigan, for some reason, has guys that don't play super well in school at Michigan, but go on to play pretty dang well in the NFL. Ohio State somehow does the opposite, where they are unbelievable in school at the college level and then sometimes don't pan out, especially at the quarterback level. I mean, they haven't had a quarterback pan out in the NFL in how long now? You know, it's been ever, right?
Basically ever. They
Right.
really have no good quarterbacks in the NFL. You
It's
look at Ohio
really
State
incredible.
position by position, they have flooded the NFL with guys that then turned out to be good NFL players at every position. The quarterback's been atrocious at Ohio State at the next level.
Which is amazing because what do they have year after year? They have quarterbacks that are breaking records at the quarterback position. So, which is why I think a lot of NFL scouts are skeptical about Justin Fields as well. So we'll see how that pans out too. But yeah, I think I agree with you. The gap between Michigan and Ohio State, it hasn't. Yes, there's a significant gap, but it hasn't been something that's like, oh wow, that is why Ohio State wins by a huge margin every year. That's why, I mean, the gap that we see from year to year in the recruiting does not translate to 18 out of 20, years of winning that football game for the Buckeyes, right? There's something else that's going on, and it seems to be the edge that Ohio State comes into that game with, or that they're training for it all year round. There's more to it than just the recruiting. Obviously, the recruiting, when you have a Chase Young on the defensive line, it's pretty easy to get to the quarterback. And when you have a Justin Fields at quarterback, it's really easy to make those guys, to make those plays. But you also then have a Chris Olave who has been unbelievable for Ohio State, better than probably any Michigan receiver in the past 10 years or so. And he was a 3-star, so that's where there's something different that's going on there. And it'll be interesting to see how Michigan takes that all into consideration with this new coaching staff. Are they trying to instill something that's different about Michigan now, that they're going to have a chip on their shoulder at all times? They're going to have an edge. They're training for that Thanksgiving weekend game against Ohio State every single day of the year now. So I think that's what Jim Harbaugh's plan is with this younger coaching staff. With a guy like Mike Hart, who's played and won that game before, he can bring something back to that and say, here's how we did it. Here's how we played. Here's how we practiced. Here's how we trained every single day. But it'll be interesting how also Jim Harbaugh, who's late 50s, how does he work with a younger coaching staff on a day-to-day level as well? Is he the CEO type? Is he getting in there every single day? He's now apparently the quarterback's coach as well. Is he being more hands-on because he was pretty hands-off for the past 3 years? All of this factors into a very interesting spring season for Michigan, which we still don't know what is going to happen there. But it'll be interesting with the quarterback competition, with new coaching staff on both sides of the ball. It'll be really interesting to see how it all pans out for Michigan this spring going into 2021.
And so, folks, while we try to steer away from merging Ohio State and Michigan in every discussion and just realize that Ohio State plays 11 other games and Michigan plays 11 other opponents, and they're running their own separate football operations, I'm sure this is just one of about 47 previews we'll give you before they actually step on the field, hopefully in 2021.
Yeah, exactly. We'll by the time we get to Michigan Ohio State week, we might not have anything else to talk about because we've gone over it all. But hey, you know what? I know a lot of people, and myself and yourself included, that could talk Michigan Ohio State pretty much every week of the year. Rivalry games, especially in the college football world, are about as fun as it gets. So, especially as we know more about the actual players playing in these games and to see who comes out as Ohio State's quarterback, who comes out as Michigan's quarterback. It'll be really fun to talk about that and watch it all unfold come. It'll be really fun for Ohio State fans, maybe. I don't know about Michigan fans, how much fun they'll have, but maybe this is the year. You'll never know.
It's going to happen sometime.
One of these years.
Guaranteed.
Never know when, but one of these years. It may be this year, it may be 20 years down the road, but one of them, it's going to happen, right?
Absolutely. So, folks, if you like the content, then go ahead and hit the like button. Subscribe here. We go live every day. Hit the bell for the notifications. Join Justin Rowe on his Twitter page. You'll follow him to Stadium and Main Podcast, Justin Rowe 92. Justin, we appreciate you stopping by as always.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Mark. See you next time.